the cement is always wet, right? Because the moment that the cement dries, it means that you're fixed, you're standing in place, you're not going anywhere, right? So what I like about working that way is that if I work digitally, my mind is it's too efficient in that it's already done. The cement is dry, you're gonna go with this. But if I've erased it, I've effectively burned the bridge behind me, so I now have to figure out a new way, right? So therefore, the cement is always wet. If I'm working traditionally, as long as there's an eraser there, and as long as the thing is erased and I have no way to get that back, I can figure out a new way, a new thing,
sure.
right? And I think that has made the joys of it so much fun, man.
This is the Ink Pulp Podcast.
Yo.
Hello.
This has got to be episode 300 by now, right? Are we done? Isn't that what we said, 300?
Yeah, this is the final episode. This is the end of the Ink Pulp Podcast. Thank you all for joining us.
Boys, you both look good.
You're just lying.
You look healthy. You look well adjusted physically and emotionally, psychologically.
You can see that.
Okay, he's talking about Sean. I got it.
No.
You guys
you're the most mentally healthiest one of the three.
Yeah, I think so.
That's Mateo.
Maddie? I think you have no emotional problems. You have a grasp of every action that you're doing. Subliminal.
No, actually, to be honest with you, lately I've been having like some issues, which are solved now, and it's no.
Check out his girlfriend and his kid really quick, though. Just really quick.
Well, by the time they see the episode, it'll be too late. They'll be like,
They'll be what? They'll be what?
Cut into pieces and long gone.
What's going on?
They're not going to be in
brother?
my fridge anymore.
You'll have eaten them by then.
Yeah. He'd have eaten and pooped them out by then.
So
Seriously, you all right? What's going on?
No, nothing special. I just I dealt with the problem now, so now it's solved. But it's interesting because it's kind of connected with what we've been talking about lately, with both Scotty and Jim. But I'll get to that. So
okay.
Basically, like lately, I've been kind of I don't know how to say it, but sort of angry all the time because I felt that I wasn't getting enough time to work on my book, and I felt that everything else was getting in the way of me, getting my work done on the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you talking about family getting in the way or other projects?
Like everything was in the way. Like even if I had to go somewhere, I would be pissed because just the drive would take 15 minutes and I'd be pissed. So everything was in the way. So, and I complained with that, about that with my therapist. And I was like, fuck, I'm getting so angry. And everything seems to be getting in the way of me getting my work done. I hate everyone. I hate everything. And then, like, it took me a couple of weeks. And then I realized that I was just projecting. I was just mad at myself because what I did lately is that I've accepted like 3 covers that I shouldn't have accepted, basically. And those like were getting in the way, especially because the first one that I decided to do was taking too much time because it's basically it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know if I can say it, but I think that by the time when this episode comes out, probably it would be out. I don't know. So basically they're relaunching them. So I agreed on doing a cover for it. And but it's an IP, like it's owned by a corporation.
Yeah.
So the whole process, like, it's so slow, way slower than the usual process for a normal cover, where you just go through, your editor for for publisher.
Yeah.
So,
and just to give people, hold on, Maddie, just to give people who don't understand what working with an IP is like, it's like they're very protective of it, right? They want to make sure that it's aligned to whatever sort of guidelines that they have. So the part that slows IP work down is like there's a bunch of different checks, and heaven forbid it has to go through like a department that's going to end up using it for something like a towel or like a lunchbox, and it goes through another check. So it's really process heavy, and depending on what state of mind you're in, if you're not prepared for it, it gets frustrating. I'm sorry, Mandy, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, what happens is that I've accepted it out of enthusiasm because I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, because I used to watch the cartoon, the TV show,
I think
when I was a kid.
Safe to say we all are.
Yeah, so I was super pumped about doing a cover for it. So, but then the whole process started. And not only that, there's another process, meaning that I live in Italy, so there's a time difference. So basically what happens is that every time I send a layout for the cover, then they get it, and basically they get it when it's evening here, so the day is already over. Then they have to share it with, in this case it's Nickelodeon, which is the one that owns the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles brand, basically. So every time I would have to wait like 3 days for approval because of the whole process. And I was getting like, to me, they're just, again, weird, notes about stuff like the gums of the turtle, that you shouldn't show their gums or whatever, which I understand. I don't have anything against that. Like, it's part of the process. And so on. So that was the first cover. And then at the same time, I started working on other covers. And especially one, there's a lot of things to be, reviewed about it. So the whole process of just doing covers, which in my head would take like, I don't know, 1 week, I can do 3 covers if everything, goes smooth. It started being 1 week and then another week. So basically, I was mad at myself for accepting, taking those gigs. But I wasn't able to process that. So once I processed that, I was like, okay, so this whole thing is basically my responsibility. So once I made peace with that, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just do these covers. And whenever I finish, I finished. And that's it. So now I'm still in the weeds of it. So it's still hard because it's taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I got rid of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one. I had to change plans because at first I was so enthusiastic that I thought, okay, I'm going to paint this one. And then by the end of the process, I was like, guys, I had already done like a color test and everything, a quick color test with Photoshop. But I ended up saying like, what, I'll just think it. Let's have, like, I don't have any more energies for this cover. So I had to, make peace with that, and just I'll have a colorist dealing with that. Yeah. But this whole thing made me think again about the seeking opportunities and the ability of, reading situations, and how sometimes this thing can become a double-edged sword, because every time the fact that I accept these covers is not because of money, or I just every time somebody proposes me to do something and gives me an offer, my head starts thinking about all the possible options that I have from this cover, from an artistic point of view, meaning that again with the turtles, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna paint this one. It's gonna be technical because it's 4 character with different colors. There's a lot of green, so I gotta study a nice solution and blah blah blah. And then there was no character studies yet, so I was like, you know what, maybe if I'm quick to deliver and they like my design, maybe they'll ask me to do the design for them if they don't have an artist for it yet, you know, which is not going to happen. I know that, but that's where my brain goes immediately. You know, this huge, think about this huge river that divides in 1,000 different rivers. That's what happens in my head. So I think of all of the opportunities that this cover alone will give me, you know. So and sometimes it, you know, it fires. It backfires. Is that the right term? So this this thing that I'm really happy that I have, I think it's what provides me with the career that I have, because I was always good at, you know, seeking opportunity and finding opportunity even in things that apparently didn't offer a lot of them. At the same time, in this case especially, is biting me in the ass, because it's keeping me away from my project for he's been keeping me away from my project for a long period of time. So it's fuck, I had to make peace with the fact that I made this time probably my choices weren't the smartest, but I'll never stop being who I am. Like tomorrow if they ask me to do a cover again, I'll have to fight that internal instinct again. But
I think that's a hard instinct to fight.
Freaking amazing.
I'll tell you, the awareness you have about this is incredible, because that headspace that you were in where you were angry at everything, I lived in that space for a really long time and didn't come to that self-awareness for a very long time. So it's amazing that you're able to come to that so quickly. That's
let me follow up on what
as I
Matteo
mentioned
just said,
earlier.
right?
Like sorry, I'll do it real quick. But I had help. I had a therapist listening to me, and I remember she was like, after the first session, she was like, okay, so we've been talking about this thing, and you seem a little bit too angry. Like, I understand the frustration, but the anger is a little bit too much. So I think there's something more behind it. So she helped me focus on that thing instead of just, okay, you're angry because this or that you listed. So it's fine as long as you know, it will, you know, it'll be over soon. And instead she decided to stop on that feeling and help me analyze it properly.
Understand.
And by the third, fourth session, she was like, okay, you know what? Like, I think I'm starting to think that it comes from you. Like, you're probably mad at something else. So you got to check on what you're mad for. And then I started thinking, I was like, oh shit, right, I'm mad at myself. So I was, I'm saying this just to confirm the fact that probably if I didn't get somebody else, you know, intervening and trying to analyze this thing, probably I would have never got to the point where I got.
Yeah, that's great. I think, there's a lot to talk about there. One, I think that my mother-in-law has a term in as far as like getting frustrated with a situation. Yours is a bit more nuanced, Matteo, which is like you have a picture in your head of how things are supposed to be. And then there's this thing that plays out, which is not exactly the picture, and your brain is having a hard time negotiating. Wait, this is the thing that I wanted. Right. But this is the thing that's happening. So that's pretty interesting. The cool thing is that you do have the safety valve, you know what I mean? To be able to turn to somebody and be like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And then you guys go through the process of like, actually, Matteo, it's this, or you landed it on your own. But I don't want to lose I think the part that I'm really focusing on is that no matter what we end up talking about, you always somehow bring up the fact that you're doing a ton of covers, and it's really an asshole move. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what fucking happens, You know what I mean? Like we could be talking about this serious subject matter. I love the fact that you're talking about like, hey, I'm going through this and I'm reflecting and blah, blah, blah. But at the top level, at the very beginning, you just couldn't help yourself, which is like, hey, by the way, I'm doing a ton of covers, you guys, you know, and I'm really popular right now.
Basically, Matteo, you sound like a privileged asshole complaining. I'm kidding. Yeah. Totally kidding.
With my first world problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's really amazing that you have that. I guess at the end of the day, it's just I think the reason why an added layer is that you really want to get to this project. You know what I mean? Like if it didn't bother you, or if you didn't want to get to it, it wouldn't bother you so much. You know what I'm getting at? Like if you're like, it's kind of whatever, I'll get to it when I get to it. But there is something in the back of your mind that's going like, hey man, we're supposed to be doing this instead. And you're distracting yourself with all of these other things. Then it just compounds from there, sort of, you know? That's cool.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I mean, not cool, but it's good that you're reflecting on it, you know?
I think that, and you know, I think Eric, you can attest to that. Like, you need, if you have a book, and I mean, you have your book, but you were doing other, you know, gigs and other jobs at the same time, so it's different probably. But when you have your book, there's a point in which you have to be you have to wake up your little inner Hitler. Meaning that you have to, you have to have this inner voice that tells.
Did you just call Eric a little Hitler? Is that what you did?
No, you meaning Hitler. A generic you. I was talking about myself as well.
I know.
Meaning that
I was kidding.
No, Eric is our little Pol Pot, not Hitler. For you know. Meaning, considering your ethnicities, like Pol Pot is more on point for you. But so, no, again, you gotta have their inner voice.
It's really difficult to be your friend. Yeah.
So you need to have an inner voice that at a certain point should intervene and say, "All right, kids, we've been having fun. Now the fun is over, and we gotta deliver." Otherwise, you'll end up, doing what a million other artists do, and they start, I don't know, dissolving energies in 1,000 different rivers, and they never get to finish what they've started. You know, and we have plenty of great examples of that throughout history in comic books. So I don't want to end up.
I think generally what ends up happening is, you have a goal, right? And something is preventing you from, so you generate an energy behind accomplishing that goal. But occasionally there's a mental, psychological, right? There's a roadblock that makes you not go start that goal, not even accomplish it, just start it, right?
Yeah.
The problem is you still have that energy, right? You built up a reserve to specifically put into accomplishing that goal, right? But but because you don't start, but because you didn't get on the path of going there, that energy still exists and it needs to exert itself in some capacity, right? But because it's not being put into the very specific thing that it was generated for, it creates a frustration, right?
Yep.
You're either saying, hey, I'm just, biding my time, I'm putting it into this something else. And eventually, as soon as you repurpose it into that thing, it gives you a level of fulfillment because that's what it was made for, right? There's a different sort of like feeling when you're working on something, even though you're not like getting it right. As long as it's the thing that the energy was generated for, it feels so much more fulfilling, at least in my experience, right? So I think a lot of people are like, hey, I get frustrated because, I'm working on X, Y, and Z. And you're like, yeah, but that's not what you set yourself up for. You generated, developed, and put this battery into reserve, and now you're tapping into it, but you're using that energy for something else. That's why it feels unfulfilling, potentially. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, and it translates to other parts of your life in the end, because what happens is that, at least this is what I've noticed when I was working on my book.
Hold on, before you're about to get into something deep, right? But I don't know how many times Sean has to lift up that like branded fucking cup
Fuck, man.
into the goddamn shot, like Sean.
Or another good idea would be to apply that sticker to an empty one just for showing, and then use the other one and to drink with the one with ice. So every time you have to show you don't make that annoying fucking noise,
No, clinkety clink clink. Look at this fucking cup that I have.
Look. I've just got one thing to say.
Go ahead.
Fuck both of you.
No, come on. We're trying to help you brand better. But it's so it's literally this, like clink, clink, clink. Look at the thing that I'm thinking. And my you could literally told Jamie, hey Jamie, at the beginning of this thing, let's do a bumper for the sticker. We don't have to interrupt Mateo's. I think it's heartfelt. He's never been this sort of like open and deliberate and articulated about this thing that he's going through.
In my own life, probably.
And you're at the very least in this podcast, and you're sitting there with fucking jingle bells, just like ching ka ching ka ching. Let's talk about reindeer and this sticker. Jesus Christ, Sean. All right, I lost the roadmap. Go ahead, Maddie. You were talking about it.
No, what I was saying is that what I've noticed is that when I'm doing the book, and therefore I'm using that energy that I have in the storage room, I'm using it for my book, and I'm able to work enough hours during the day. When I finish, when my day is over, even though I'm not thinking about finishing necessarily one page, this guy fucking Jesus Christ.
All right, well, wait, hold on here.
He has to make noises.
No, fuck both of you. This is because Eric, I just saw that Eric messaged me to forward the link to Francis. So I'm sitting here scrambling, wondering if Francis got the link. What do I got to do? You motherfuckers don't realize what I'm doing behind the scenes here. So fuck you and fuck you.
Okay, Sean, let's analyze that. Okay, since you got really mad. Like you said, you were checking stuff you were checking stuff on a computer. So how checking stuff on a computer makes so much fucking noise? Explain to me.
I'm checking shit on my phone, dum-dum.
Yeah, but the noise was
because I dropped my phone.
Do you have a noisy? Yeah, okay, that because you're a fucking. Okay, yeah, that's the problem. Bleep that, Jamie. Or can we say it nowadays?
You can, pal. There's this thing. I don't know if you saw in the email, Maddie, that I'm trying to give a little bit more of a professional polish to any time that we send out this link. So there was a part there, to be honest with you, where and I wanted to run this by you guys before I included it because I didn't want you guys to fucking like roll your eyes at me. But there was a bullet point that I omitted for this version. I'm thinking about putting it back in, and it speaks to where you're coming from right now, which is we talk very frankly and openly on this podcast. And sometimes the rhetoric goes right into that space where society has told you, hey, that's not a good thing to say. Now, we don't cross into the no land, right? Like you've used Nazi.
We do it privately,
before, right? And but yeah, we do absolutely behind the scenes and not in public, but we just shrug at it, right? But also, the reason why I took it off is because, I would hope before they jump on this show and they torpedo their fucking career, our guests know, right, that we talk, there's certain threshold that we cross into that some people are like, oh, you shouldn't say or you shouldn't use those terms anymore. It's up to you to use that, right? I don't know, man. Me personally, I take no offense, but 98% of the public either genuinely take offense or they take offense in lieu of somebody else taking offense at something. They don't really care about it, but somebody told them it was a bad idea, so now they're going to start spouting it.
Yeah, but again, going back to the whole thing, if you have a problem with it, it's your problem. It's not going to be our problem.
That's it. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So going back real quick to what I was saying, Sean, are you good, or you have to do some more noises?
Grasp the phone with both hands, Sean. Do not drop that phone.
I have the phone in both hands. I'm talking to Francis, trying to figure out what's going on. But go ahead. Go ahead.
He's doing behind the scenes stuff, is what he's saying. Go ahead, Maddie.
So no, basically, what I've noticed is that when I use the energies properly, when the day is over, it is really over. So I'm able to be into what I'm doing next, which is,
Yes.
being with my family, for example,
Yeah.
and play
Yeah.
with my kid and whatever, like
Yeah.
being really present in
Yeah.
the moment, which is an exercise that I'm trying to do as much as I can in life, just being in the moment, whatever you do.
Yeah.
And so since I wasn't able, I haven't been able during this last 3 weeks to, channel those energies properly. I'm realizing that, I'm not able to be in the moment with all the rest of my life, so it's affecting
because you're
a fair
in the back of your mind. You left something that you didn't do, right? You were like, hey, I didn't do something. And so my brain isn't even here because it's still in the office somewhere. It's still at your drafting table
or
somewhere.
it's partially there, but it's not there the way I wanted it to be there,
Exactly. No, I feel that. Yeah. There's plenty of times when my wife will catch me being frustrated or just like, broadcasting that frustration onto somebody else, which is really unfair. And then she goes like, you okay? Is there something that you need to get done? And it really is a moment of like reflection where I go like, oh, right. Because I spent the better part of the today, like emailing people or, and I really, really, and I told you guys this, I really love drawing, So when I don't get to draw for I don't even know what appropriate amount of time is, but I feel like I need to draw for X amount of length of time before I feel like, okay, yeah, I've drawn today, like if I don't cross that, it feels so weird to me where I'm just doing administrative and like typing away and stuff, which I know is necessary. So I almost have to do it at the beginning of the day. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like I need to tell myself, hey, 6 hours of your 8-hour day or 10-hour day for today, you're actually returning emails or doing, like doing administrative stuff, like behind the scenes, like, technical stuff, not actually drawing. I had to set that expectation up early so that by the end of the day, I don't feel like, oh yeah, I missed out on something, Sean,
absolutely.
All of this makes sense from are you hearing Mateo talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's amazing to hear him be this level of reflective, and then this level of like exalted and elevated because he's like, oh, I recognize this in myself, right? Are you digesting any and all of this, man? Are you like?
I understand what you're saying, Eric. You're telling me that I need to learn from this. That's what you're saying.
It's an opportunity to like, hey, look, that guy's doing it.
I think I've grown quite a bit in the past couple of years, and I think I'm getting much better at these things.
Okay, good. Because the first 5 minutes that he was talking, Jamie, I want you to cut to the footage where Sean yawns through it. Like he just lets out a yawn, or I'm like, I don't think he cares about what Mateo's saying. Cut to it, Jamie, like right now, right? I'm prompting it like right now.
Yep. And I was getting like,
to me, they're just, again, weird, notes about stuff. Like,
Mateo, you know what he's doing, right? You know what he's doing, Mateo? You're aware of this.
Please, if you find that, Jamie, do it in slow-mo. Like,
there's no yawn. There is no yawn. Eric is making
there is
that
a
up.
yawn.
There is no yawn.
Marker it right now. Like literally when it's happening, I want you to like, you do the little, boop, like there, and then replay it to right now. Anyway, Francis is coming. I'm going to introduce another Filipino into this conversation. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
There he is.
Yo,
Guys, I am so sorry, man.
I apologize.
Oh no, we've been having a shit
problem,
show
man.
here, so you're saving us right now,
dude. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making time.
Yeah, are we all doing portrait mode? Actually, no, I don't know how to do it.
That's okay, buddy.
No, we're all in landscape.
You're fine.
We're in landscape.
It only looks like portrait on your screen, but it's going to be uploading the footage into landscape, so you're good.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I didn't make it to the studio, that's why I'm just running on my phone, and I guess off my phone I needed an app.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
You're okay.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Don't apologize.
Kid stuff.
I want to let's celebrate the
This
fact
is what
that
we were
you're
talking
here,
about, actually.
and I don't have to spend the next 30 minutes just pointing out how Sean hates his own show and he tries to scuttle it at every opportunity. Francis, you didn't see it, but maybe when you watch this episode, I want you to confirm. Yeah. So Matteo opens the conversation, and let me catch you up. Matteo opens the conversation with being really heartfelt, really reflective about like where he was mentally and why it was causing him enough frustration to the point where he was outwardly showing a level of like anger towards his situation, whatever he may be. He just couldn't stay present at the end of the day. And because of that, he was incredibly frustrated and he was like sort of projecting it, right? And Matteo was like, I had an opportunity there to reflect with the help of a therapist to take a look at like where that frustration was coming from. Dude, it was amazing. It's actually the most articulate that Matteo has been in a long time. I think for the first time in his life, this was the first time I was like, whoa, that's a lot of words all together, all at the same time. But at the 5-minute mark, and Jamie's going to bring it up like right now again.
And I was getting like,
to me, they're just, again, weird, notes about stuff. Like
Sean yawns through it, just like he tries to contain it. You know the containment yawn where he's like, he does that. I saw it, man. And then near the end, he does everything to like drop stuff while Matteo's talking. He's clinking a cup. You know what I mean? That has his brand on it. Like he wants to promote it in the middle of Matteo being like really heartfelt and open. Right. And I'm going to guess it's because he doesn't want to do it while you're on, our guest. Thank you very much for being here. Right. He doesn't want to do it while you're on, but he's totally okay to doing it to Matteo because it's his brother, so.
I think that Sean was doing it.
I'm holding a yawn right now.
Yeah.
I think that Sean was doing it because he saw that I was slowly going away from being a kid and just playful for a moment. So he wanted to bring me back to being just his fratello.
Yeah.
I needed to smack you back down, right? Yeah. Bring you back down to earth.
Throwing poop at each other is what he prefers. Anyway, Francis, thank you for being here, dude. Appreciate your time.
Dude, my pleasure, man. You guys all know I'm a big fan of all three of you, so this is it's an honor, guys.
Hey, congratulations on the. Is it an imprint? Is it an initiative? What term do you guys use internally for Ghost Machine?
So we're a company unto ourselves.
Yeah.
But as you know, a lot of the problems that occur when you're a startup company are you could get caught up in things like, well, what kind of paper are we going to use? How are we going to distribute and stuff?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah. And Image has created such a good ecosystem that allows us to work independently as ourselves, and they provide this vast network of ability to distribute and print. So that way we can focus on the creative side and focus on other aspects of our business.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So it's to us, we see a lot of things in the way the industry has been changing with a lot of people taking it upon themselves, especially as you have done, Eric, and as, Matteo is about to do, I think there's a lot of credit to all of the little work that you don't get to see to make that thing happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude. And we're just not as brave as you guys, right?
I think it's
so that's why we're doing it collectively.
No, I don't see it that way though. Like I see it more as you guys all arriving at the signal at the same time, if that makes any sense. I think the bravery component, as complimentary as that is, I think there's just a lot of people who arrive to the starting line. They either arrive there independently or as a collective, but the point is that you arrive there. Right. I think the current marketplace, the current geography that we're about to go into as sort of a publishing / creative collective, right? It's like people want to say, oh, we know what that space looks like. I don't think so. Right. Like it's actually important that people pioneer what the next version is, because it's already been sort of like, if you go down the tried and true, you're going to get tried and true results. But if you decide, actually, we know like that's not optimized, whatever it may be that you identify, that's not optimized for my creative process. And you decide, okay, I'm going to be the first person to pathfind my way through there. It's going to be painful. There's going to be a ton of mistakes, but it requires people to take that initiative. And I'm glad that we are as far as resource is concerned, we're able to turn to each other and go like, dude, I really fucked that up. How did you guys handle that? You know, I'll take that. I'll take that in a heartbeat, especially now that more people are trying it, you know? One of the side conversations that we have when we go offline is we end up talking about our personal experiences. Yo, this is what the printer does. This is what the turnaround time does. You know, here's what this distribution model looks like. And then somebody goes off and do their own thing and adds to that collective knowledge, you know? So I'm glad that you guys are able to do it as a collective, because that resource of being able to turn to the person to the left and right of you, that's amazing, you know? So congratulations, man. That's great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. Absolutely. In case nobody knows what we're talking about, sorry, I'm also going to promote this.
Nice.
Yeah. See how you did that seamlessly? It was part of the conversation, Francis.
I knew this was coming.
It was literally
this was
shifting
about to
into
happen.
third gear from second. It wasn't you randomly bringing in a cup
See,
as
the
Mateo was
minute-
talking about his feelings. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Anyway, that
Well,
was,
not-
yeah,
not
you
Bringing in a
account for the fact
Lamborghini
that, you know,
with the logo on it. Like,
hey, you know what? That's how you're gonna get like sponsors and stuff like that on this show. So Sean's just thinking. He's just
Thank you,
thinking big
Francis.
picture.
Thank you.
You know. Yeah. No. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that like I think what was interesting, you know, before we announced in New York, you know, we all got a chance to hang out there, and we had like a more or less like a creative company summit, and we kind of did this thing where we were going around in a circle where we're like, what does this mean to us?
Yeah.
Right. And one of the most common things is that we literally met each other, you know, metaphorically speaking, at this crossroad of our careers.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm constantly projecting where my career is going. And a lot of times, to be perfectly honest, I rarely live in the present. I'm constantly living in the future, right? Which kind of sucks, because sometimes it robs me of that moment of accomplishment, because in my brain, if I put in the work, that is just an inevitability, right?
Sure.
And going with that
absolutely.
mind frame, it's also easy for me to say, okay, well, if I do nothing, this is how my career path is going to go. And that's perfectly fine, right? It was predictable and it was safe, right? And what's interesting about this is that it's the opposite of predictable. I did not have this on my bingo card like 2 years ago, you know? And is it going to be safe? I don't know, right? But the thing is that, you know, I've been doing this long enough that I don't want to say that all of our careers are foretold, but it kind of is. You know what I mean? The history has been paved. You can look back at every artist whom we've all followed throughout the years, and we know how everyone's careers go. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but to me that feels really predictable, right? And it was just, it was the perfect time for a lot of us who were craving change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think the geography that you're stepping in, you know, following up what you were coming from, which is like, you know, is it predictable, right? I think there's a lot of people who get a tiny bit intimidated by the idea of like, even though I'm a well-accomplished, well-regarded professional, these kinds of exercises, there's no way to predict whether or not it's going to be successful. If you go into that headspace, that gets a little murky for me. You know, I always see it as, you know, the confidence stepping into that space isn't because the outcome is going to be successful. It's because of your conduct, right? You're going to conduct yourself in a level of confidence that's informed by how you've been doing business before, right? And I think that's where the success is. Am I going to approach this with the same level of professionalism that I did my previous projects, even though the outcome of this is sort of like unpredictable, even though the future is a tiny bit opaque? The answer, I would hope the answer is yes, right? And so the outcome is going to be whatever it is, right? The victory is, hey, this is now all hinging on my conduct, and I'm going to do it the same exact way that I've been doing it previously. I think some people, when they get this opportunity, they shift into a weird gear where they don't hold themselves with the same level of accountability as they would they were working for somebody else, right? That's weird to me. Like, why would you do that, right? And expect the same kind of outcome. That's weird to me, you know? So I think that's divining rod for a lot of like successful exercises, not in outcome, but in conduct, right? Mateo,
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Francis.
No, go ahead. It's your show.
No, you're the guest, man. You think. Continue.
Sure. All right, I'll take up the space. No, what I was just saying is that, aside from conduct, I totally agree with you. I think there's a sense of pride of ownership,
sure.
right? It's like if you were renting something, obviously you want to make it nice while you're there, but ultimately you're going to move. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like, when I work on the Flash, I know that there is going to be a time where it's time for me to leave. And, that was a long time ago. And then there would be a time when somebody else will step in and make it their own. Right. And with what we're doing, you can already tell, like, and I think this is where the nucleus of the people also matters a lot. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You could see everybody taking on more than they normally would. Right. Because the thing is that the way this company is built, we own it all together. Right. And we literally have vested interest in each other's success.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And a lot of times when you look at the creator space, when you remove said creator from the equation, that project is dead. Right. It's kind of like when you look at, like YouTubers, right? There's the guy who's making the content. And as soon as you remove them, that business is over.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we've constructed our company is that if we were to leave, the company is scalable because what we're really focusing on are the characters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine if you were there at, I don't know, with any luck, if we have a fraction of the success of a Marvel or DC,
Mm-hmm.
could you imagine if you owned a percentage of those companies years ago, how
Sure.
drastically different
Sure.
Your life would be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, we've made a company that is very scalable. Right. Especially at the beginning, it's obviously running on the fumes of our previous success.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, if we turn the ship right and we get the readers to really buy into the characters, and eventually the characters can overtake our names, right? Like the characters can be much more popular than us as individual creators.
Sure.
And once we make that transition, now we're making a company that is scalable beyond what we can do, well past our abilities to even draw or write.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of forward thinking in making sure that the business now, and that's why we're sharing everything, right? So that's also part of the scalability of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very much forward thinking, but at the same time, it's actually very grassroots because we realize it's going back to the core of what makes comic books readable and enjoyable for people is they're about characters.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So that's why we have that tagline, creators, characters you'll love.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually you'll love them. And that's why the books are launching as ongoing series, not a mini series. We're not creating Netflix pitches.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
We're creating stories that are meant to last for a long time. Like, I mean, when you talk to Brian Hitch, he's ready for like 40, 50 issues, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is so gung-ho to really keep moving forward. And I think that goes with saying it's like we're building a house and everyone's like, yeah, I really want to build this shed because I know that next summer we're going to enjoy the hell out of that thing. I'm going to build this amazing deck. So everybody is literally pulling their sleeves up and hammering away at the nails and building something that will last.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I'm also like, anytime we have these kinds of conversations with people, I know you first and foremost as a creator, right? So when I think about this, your history, I think about your body of work. It's a different, and I'll speak for myself. Like, it was a different gear. It's a completely different hat that you put on when you're having to deal with like the business component of it, right? A lot of people I know can't make that transition. They often see things in a very shallow arm's length perspective and not really think about 10 steps down the line, like the level of, like, use a term like scalability. I don't know too many people who incorporate that into their day to day, So that's an interesting, how long did it take you to get into that space where you go, obviously I can draw, obviously I can write, I'm a creator, but at some point you go like, oh, here's the administrative businessman hat that I need to put on. Was that something that you took on organically, or was that a struggle for you?
I don't know. It felt organic, and I'll be honest, I kind of found my way through that in the weirdest way, which is like YouTube,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I fell down a rabbit hole of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a few years ago, I was just getting back into playing with my cameras. It was just something I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm literally just watching reviews. And 5, 6 years ago, when I think YouTube, I think, you know, guys getting hit in the balls. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right? And when I was watching reviews of things that I wanted to buy, I didn't know. I was suddenly realizing that, wait a second, some of these guys, I'll watch whatever, you
Yeah.
know, even though it was the camera I was interested in. And I'm like, wait a second, you know, and then suddenly I fell down this rabbit hole where like, whoa, some of these people are employing storytelling,
Mhm.
right? And then the weirdest thing happened is that, you know, you guys are in this landscape. You'll know that if you've watched anything about YouTube strategies, you'll know that the hottest buzzwords in the last 3 years is storytelling,
Mhm.
right? And everyone in the YouTube landscape is just catching up to something that we inherently already know how to do, right? So what's funny is that as I was finding reasons and just to justify my hobby
Mhm.
of buying cameras and playing around with it and shit, I fell down into the rabbit hole like, oh, well, what are these guys? Is this like an actual functional business that they're doing? And then once I got into that, I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is a viable business for people. And then I started looking into how that stuff is structured. So what's interesting is that all of us at Goes Machine, we bring in such a different like wealth of experience, right? So in that case, like, dude, we're no dum-dums, right? We got a guy who developed a business plan for us, right? And one of the things that was really important was that the business plan was built around our identities, right? So that way we weren't doing anything that was uncomfortable to us. Everything that we were doing was something that we would be naturally inclined to do as an extension of what we do creatively,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And in that regard, you know, what's kind of neat about this company is that, you know, I don't need to ask PR for permission to video all the behind the scenes stuff
Sure.
when we're traveling,
Sure.
capture this and that. I can just do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what was like just a hobby can become like an asset to the company because now we have all of these footages that we can use either for social media or different things, like
Yeah.
when we're presenting the company to different avenues and stuff, right? So it wasn't, I don't want to say it was easy, but it wasn't difficult because I was interested, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like anything that is difficult is only difficult because you're not really that interested.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
If you're
Agree.
interested enough, you know, like dude, like a few years ago, I didn't know how to edit videos. You know, the hurdle of figuring out the software was too difficult. But you know, I didn't know what to do with all these video footages of my kids, right?
Right.
So I literally just practiced because I was trying to make little home videos to share with my family. You know, none of them are posted. It was just it was for me. It was for us,
Yeah.
right? And then, you know, I was like, well, you know, if I'm doing this anyways, why don't I turn the camera on something that people would actually be interested in, which is the comic book stuff, right? So that's how that happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the business hat, I would say, ironically, came from just pursuing a hobby and trying to figure out ways of how a hobby can be sustained. And you know, when you track it back, it's something you've all done, right? At some point, you said, "I want to become a comic book artist," right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So then it's arguably it was more difficult for us to figure out back then how you were going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude, I went to the
Yeah.
library
Right.
and I went to like the letter C and I looked at comic book history stuff and I would read every single interview. You know, I could almost like nerdily tell you how a lot of the image guys broke in because of Wizard,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Right.
You know, so then in a sense, that's business research because it's something that I'm interested in, right? And it's kind of the same thing with a lot of these things, right? It always stems from like a not to sound so like like cheesy, but it always stems from a creative desire. And then when you have that desire, you have the drive to learn, because it's not work. You're just having fun, man.
Yeah, man.
It's like if you're playing a video game and you're buying those old video game books because you want to know every nook and cranny of the map, right? That's not work. It's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
think that's
absolutely.
the key.
So,
What do you
Francis,
call it? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean. Go.
I was just going to say, my question for you was, you talked about the storytelling being like the buzzword in the YouTube stuff. Is that what led you down the rabbit hole, so to say, of creating a work in progress? Did you see, like, how can I document my day, but in a narrative fashion?
At the beginning, not at all. I just wanted to play with my camera.
Oh,
I
okay.
literally I had just bought this new camera, but here's the thing. I have the foresight of the fact that, as Jamie can attest to, who you guys work with, I am a very slow editor, right? And I actually worked with Jamie on the second episode, but it was one of those things where, do I want
so that was the
efficiency?
It was our Jamie that you were talking about, because I listened to that episode today, like a few hours ago, as I was working.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, he has a guy named Jamie as well.
Yeah.
He is our guy.
It's the same Jamie.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Jamie, yeah.
It's the same. Hi, Jamie. Yeah, this is where Jamie zooms in at Eric's reaction, right? I'm familiar with your stuff. Yeah. So yeah, man. I don't know, dude. Like, it was like the earlier edits, honestly, was just me figuring out the software, and a lot of it was that. Look, man, like we all were, write and draw comic books. The stuff, storytelling is rhythmically natural for us to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was putting the edits together, some things felt right, some things felt wrong. It was just, the earlier part was me figuring out the software, right? And then at some point, I was coming to the realization of what I was doing and how I could combine it. Right? It's a lot like art, right? Like, I remember a long time ago, I didn't go to art school, and I remember my ex at the time, she went to art school, and I was, doing the watercolor and ink wash stuff, and I was like, hey, check this out! I discovered this new technique. And he's like, yeah, we learned that like the first year of university, and it took me like 2 years to come to it, because I had to stumble across it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times in art, we do a lot of things naturally, and we can't always deploy it as a weapon in our arsenal until we come to the realization that we're doing it, right? And then once we're doing it, the next time we're doing it with intent and purpose, right?
Yeah.
So the beginning part was literally me just stumbling across, and then at some point I figured out that that's essentially what it was, is storytelling, and not to get super obsessive, I became obsessed with retention, because to me, a good retention meant a good story, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was even talking to Peter Tomasi about it, where to me, could you imagine if you could track somebody reading a comic book and figure out when you're losing them, or when that interest is peaked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then on YouTube, I can figure that out, right? So there's like, I'd be lying to you if I said there weren't some stuff that I learned on video that I didn't bring to my comic book storytelling, because I knew that, hey, this is where you're going to lose somebody.
Yeah,
right?
that's fascinating.
Just up it, right, dude? It's such a rabbit hole, man. And the interesting thing is that retention isn't always even connected to the view count, right? Like, some of the stuff that I find the most successful creatively has the best retention, and that means whoever watched it from beginning to end, because they were, they were, I guess, caught up in the story. And some of the ones with the higher views, the retention was rather low, right? So to me, that was very fascinating, and it was, to me, very indicative of comic books, right? You have like this industry that is is, as we all know, it's shrunk relatively to what it was like when we were kids, right? And yet there are people who are really focused and in tune to the books that they're reading. They love this shit, right?
Yeah.
And it's figuring out all those things. So to me, the two go hand in hand in such a natural way, and it's funny that I literally just fucking stumbled across it because I was just playing around. You know?
That's an interesting exercise to go and see. Somehow finding an analog to comic books from YouTube to go like, here's where it dips. How could I now implement that into my storytelling?
Maybe you could
comics?
Find a way to do it with digital comic books. Maybe you got to insert like some sort of contract when you buy a new digital comic book to give permission.
They probably could track that. How long are they staying on a page, right? How briskly are they scrolling, right? Dude, it's crazy bad. I mean, I don't know if you guys look at your analytics and stuff like that. To me, that's so fascinating, man. It's I don't know if I don't know who has control of the YouTube studio. But,
I look at it sometimes. I don't go down the rabbit hole. I mean, honestly, like this is just the three of us doing what we feel like doing. So I think the minute that we try to do something different just to hold people's attention, then we're losing what the show is.
Yeah, let's speak on that really quick. And I think it ties perfectly to what Francis is talking about. And you guys use the same term multiple times now, which is like, depending on what your motivations are, right? You can try to look at the analytics and gamify the heck out of it. Like people who understand that at the DNA level of what that means, I am fascinated by those guys. Oh, you do X. Like I've heard Jamie talk in our back room about like, you do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. I'm like, and it leads to this. I'm like, that's freaking amazing, but that's a full-time job for somebody. They absolutely inhabit that space. And there's a reason why they're professionals at it. To Sean's point, though, I lean more on that side of the fence, which is like, I'm doing this because I'm having fun with my friends. And essentially, if I don't lean too hard into the analytics side, right, there is a lot of stuff that I'm leaving on the table in as far as understanding what that success quotient means, that formula for success. But I know me enough to go, this is to your point now, Francis, like, I'm not interested in that, right? Like, I'm having fun doing X, and 10% of my brain is interested in seeing how that works. But no part of me ever wants to wade into that pool further or deeper than my ankles. Like that's cool, but that's not really what I do.
1,000%, 1,000%, right? Because here's the thing, right? Like my analytics tell me, hey man, do more tutorials. If you look at my stuff, there's barely any, because I haven't figured out yet how to make tutorials that are fun for me.
Sure.
Right? Because to me, making these, it's the same thing as with you guys talking, right? Like, you guys do this because you guys get to hang out, right? And every now and then you have these rotating cast of people who show up, at your dinner while you guys are chatting and sort of try to integrate within your flow. You guys are like those gymnast skip rope guys, right? And every now and then we try to hop in, right? And
the double Dutch team.
Jamie, can you figure out how to do a 3D thing with their heads doing a hop stack? He can do it, dude. He's really good at those motion tracking. I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
Right. But so that's the thing.
Are you
right?
saying that we're not challenging Jamie enough?
Yeah. Every single chance that I get, I'm gonna throw things at him to try to figure out.
Jamie, I want fireballs coming out of my hands. No.
I hate this show so much.
He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it.
Spiderwebs. All right, sorry.
Actually, Jamie, don't do it. Let's just have Mateo looking like an idiot doing that with no effects.
I think I'll look like an idiot anyways, even with the spider webs of the fireballs, but whatever.
Who reached out to whom, Francis? No. Like, who reached out to whom? Was it Sean that said, hey, do you want to come and hang? Was it Mateo who said, Because me personally, I'm protecting you from this space. You know, I'm like, hey, there's a lot of great ideas, but I don't think I'm going to invite that guy into the clown house that is this place. Was it you that reached out to Sean and said, hey, let's hang out, let's have a conversation?
Nope. Sean reached out.
Yeah, he did not. He did not prompt you about what was going to happen, right?
Dude, come on! I watched the show.
All right,
I know everything.
All right, I'm just making sure, man.
You know, so that's the thing, man. Dude, I'm either a masochist because I was like, you know, I felt like that dude standing in the rafters waiting for somebody to ask me to dance, right? And I was just like, oh man, you know, I hope they ask. And then now here we are dancing, right?
Right.
For better or worse.
And now Jamie's going to animate us dancing.
Yeah, I'm asking because you knew the show, you saw that, you know, these guys just throw poop at each other. The guy at the bottom was just talking about like adding fireball effects and Spider-Man webbing. You know what I mean? Like, all right, okay.
Look, Jamie's just trying to get you some retention, okay?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
By the way,
dude, that's the thing, man. Like,
oh no, go ahead, Francis. Then I wanted to tell you something related to what you were talking about before, all the shenanigans with fireballs and everything. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is that like we look, man, we've all been around this business long enough that we all can see the easiest path to success, right? Even with YouTube, you can very much delineate. You know, obviously there's some element of luck to it, but at the same time, if you can read those analytics, you know the clear path. All you need to do is have the time, right?
Right.
But the thing is that one of the things that when I was talking to Jamie about it is that, like, you know, because, you know, Jamie he was very like smart about it. He had like all these strategies and stuff like that. And I said, listen, man, like I think you did some great stuff editing the second video, but a lot of the reason why I'm doing this is that to me, these videos are almost like my version of, do you guys remember like Live Journal?
Yeah.
Right. Or Blogger.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, right?
Yeah.
To me, there's a new version of that, right?
Yeah.
Instead of me writing down, well, what the hell happened, it's me visually telling a story, right? So it was hard for me to incorporate somebody else in, because then I'm asking somebody to put on my own clothes or speak in my voice, right? I don't want to ask anybody to do that.
I understand that. Yeah.
Not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and dude, that's why it's so slow, man. That's why it's so slow. I filmed that thing almost 2 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like editing that stuff feels like going back and coloring your old drawings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's painful. It's a painful practice, but at the same time, it's, you know, you can't have it be your voice if somebody else is editing.
Sure.
Right? And that's why, like, you know, as fascinated as I am with the retention and stuff like that, to me, that's more, I look at it less so in what, you know, oh dude, what's gonna make people go ooh ah, right? You know, like that bang bang YouTube style shit, right? It's more to me, it's more hearing somebody who, you know, back in the old Twitter days, someone's like, oh yeah, I read the entire graphic novel. You know what I mean? Like, I want to, that's what I want to hear. And that's what I'm trying to achieve, is to try to see how far along did you come on this ride with me, right? Because the thing is that, you know, with every story, there's something at the end. And if you didn't watch till the end, then it means that there's an aspect in my storytelling that could be improved.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's how I look at it, right? Again, there's nothing like that in comic books, right? There's the only way we can track it is perhaps sales, but even then sales are not a clear indication of the quality of a book.
Sure.
Right. We all know that.
Right.
And, you know, but in this case, there's numbers to go with it. And to me, that's fascinating.
That's awesome. That's how your brain is built, Francis.
Yeah.
It's completely
Mateo,
different
you were
than
gonna ask something?
than Maddie's and
I
Sean.
just wanted to add to what Francis was saying earlier, and even now with his whole explanation. I saw like your intention, and because earlier you were talking about tutorials and wanting to find your way of incorporating a story into a tutorial, or still finding a way to make it original or making your own. I just it just got stuck in my head. The video that you posted on how to make a cover, and on one hand you see the video and you're doing a cover, but the voice is telling a story. And it's I think part of it is one of your story from your life, from your childhood, of your uncle building a bike or something. And then you have the story of Shazam on the other end, that and this two story kind of mix up, and they you jump from one story to the other, and it was fucking beautiful. Like, it was great. So
dude, thank you so much.
I loved it. So and in general, like, I loved the general feel of the videos that you're posting on your channel. What I love is that you find this soft spot between a really genuine thing and a really genuine stories, and on the other end, so much production value. Like, they're beautiful aesthetically,
Yeah,
and you have this genuine thing going at the same time, which I think is great, especially in our world, in our business, because by doing comics, like, nobody sees us. I mean, you start seeing us because now, like, comic book shows and conventions are getting popular, so more people are attending them. But in general, if you look at the past, like, nobody knew how the artists would look like, and nobody had a kind of direct relationship to them. So by doing this really genuine thing, which I think is what we're trying to do as well here, by just hanging out in this space and talking, I think there's an advantage to it, because people are starting to know us as people with our taste outside necessarily just comic books. And that could be really useful, in my opinion, in the business, when it comes to do our thing, which is what you're doing now. And I think that could be a nice way to challenge to channel energies for the future to promote our stuff.
Yeah,
Thanks, man. No,
I
thanks.
agree. I think Mateo's 100% right. And Francis, your YouTube channel is kind of like something I look at a lot, because the quality is so good, and the intention behind it is so clear. It's like I watch it and feel like I gotta up my game a bit. But it's inspiring. It really is. It's a great.
Thanks, dude.
Your videos are incredible. But
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's interesting because like I said, right? Like a lot of it is really figuring out the story, because like a lot of early on, I'm like, I gotta use my nice camera. That's like like as Mateo, I love that he enjoyed that video, because like it opens like with crappy cell phone videos and it ends with cell phone videos, and that to me was a very sobering moment, in that people connect to stories, right? People won't connect to the best cameras. Now, mind you, I'm still interested in them because that's part of my
absolutely.
interest,
Yeah,
sure.
But at the same time, and it's not to flip it around with art as well, it goes back to that, man. Like, that's why when you guys were talking about you guys were talking about this comic book, something Road, right?
Phantom Road.
Phantom Road.
Yeah. And it's a fantastic artist, right? Like, it's the kind of art that we all look at and say, man, there's a lot more work that goes into that.
Yeah.
Like when you look at him or a Tanchi Sonic or an Alex Toth, right? We see it. We see the work that's not there, right? And it's kind of the same thing with that, is that ultimately it's about the story, and it's about getting us drawn in, right? And every now and then, when we're inking or drawing, we get very illustrative, right? We're like, oh man, I'm gonna render the hell out of this thing, and then every now and then you pull back and you say, this isn't really needed in the story, right? Like, dude, like I can get like so fucking like just esoteric about this shit, right? Because it's all so connected, in that look, man, like we all go through a time where we're like, I I don't know if I want to do comics anymore, and this is getting kind of boring, right? And every now and then you need something that brings you back, right? And a lot of times it's that whole shit, man. You leave a bit and then you come back realizing, oh shit, man, like there's so much more to this job, and there's so much in this world that informs the job, and then there's so much of the job that informs the world, right? And it's dude, it's a real fucking mind fuck once you really think about it all, and it ultimately goes back to making things as enjoyable as we can, right? Because the thing is that, going back to a thing that Eric said earlier, is that, in a roundabout way, he had mentioned, sort of touched on the fact that we could get very results driven when you go back to the core of what made us do what we do. It wasn't the result, it was the enjoyment of doing it, right? It was the act of doing it, right? My kid doesn't draw because there's going to be a finished drawing at the end. She likes it because it's fun, right? And that's the thing with a lot of the stuff, is figuring out ways to make it fun again. And that's why I switched back to traditional. And it's so weird, man. It's so weird to delve so into the technical part of things and then circle right back to a pencil and a paper, and it's
all right. See,
it's a real mindfuck.
You just tapped into what I really wanted to get to in this conversation. Was you have recently returned to traditional media after, I think, a very long time of working strictly digital. And
about like 6-7 years.
So what made you jump back? Was it that you were no longer having fun? Did the digital work just start to feel like production and you were missing the joy of creating?
Sorry, that's an incredibly leading question, Your Honor. You know what I mean? Like, Sean is such Listen, you could have just left that question open. You could have just literally you didn't have to taint it with was it because you were dead inside when you were doing
through Eric from now on to
oh
get
my God, that was awful.
Feedback.
Francis, I think you understand where he was getting at, but that was just like
sure. Yeah, no, it's so like when I
sorry, I'm just enjoying the show. If I had popcorns here now, it'd be amazing.
No, it's I'm gonna fanboy out and say it's so weird to like listen to this shit and laugh, and then now I'm in it, and I'm just like, did I like walk into like an episode of like Friends or something, but like the low rent version of Friends.
Oh my God, that was just is it because when you were doing digital it killed you inside and that's why you want to? It's like, what the fuck, Sean?
I was dead inside, and as with Eric, I am also a brother of black shirts, as you can see. Like every time, like you guys make
You're the
fun of him,
handsome
like,
version of Eric, though. This is actually our
really
first test because
Dan.
we want to switch to a different Filipino, a more good-looking one. So if you do well, we still have 20 minutes to convince us, Francis. But you're getting there.
The fact that you have editing capabilities does help. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah,
Francis,
definitely.
He's not going to do it for you.
No,
Jesus Christ.
Look, I'm not going to rob Jamie of a job yet again. No, but seriously, dude, like, you'll never understand. So on my bed, like, I have one of those bed drawer things. The joys of like waking up, pulling that thing and just blindly grabbing a shirt before you go take a shower. I know that I have like a 9 out of 10 chance that I'm going to pick the right shirt, which is a plain black shirt. Some days it might have a pocket. Some days it might not.
Yeah, some days it might be a V-neck. Some days it may have a collar, but it's black and it's going to work.
That's right.
I have a different solution for that. I never change my clothes.
Yeah, that's actually not a shirt. That's a tattoo that looks like a shirt, and he just walks around like that. Let's not lose Sean. I think the core of Sean's question is really important, which is something that you spent 7 years. That's a good chunk of time going down digital. I suspect it's got something to do with like being as productive and forward savvy as possible. But what brought you back? What made you say, "Hey, let me try traditional again"?
So a lot of it was when I started editing videos. I was like, holy shit, I am spending a lot of time on the computer, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would say in the last 2 years, I finally had to get glasses. And I think I was like, oh, is it a combination of me getting older, or is it the fact that I'm literally staring at the screen all day long?
Yeah.
And then I do it all night long when I'm editing, right? And I was just craving something, right? But what was funny was that, so here's a funny story. So the initial reason was that I was doing these Walking Dead covers. There were 6 of them, and they're all connecting. And, you know, most of my stuff is digital. And I'm like, you know what? Let me throw my art rep a bone, and I'll draw these traditionally. So he's got something to sell.
Yeah.
Like purely from an economical standpoint.
Sure.
Right. So, you know, of course, you know, I start drawing this thing, but I'm afraid, man. So I penciled it digitally. I printed it out on the board, right? You know, that the classic blue line thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was inking it, I was like, oh, this fucking sucks, man. This is really sapping the joy out of drawing, because it felt like there was a line there that I couldn't step away from, right? You know, it just felt like, hey, here's a line. Don't go outside of it. Don't go beside it. Draw right on the line. It felt so rigid, right? So then the next cover, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll print it out and lightbox it, right? That will fix it. I did it. It was also not enjoyable, because I was like, oh, now I changed this screen for another screen, like glaring right at my eye, right? Not enjoyable at all, right? And then, but again, it gave me what I needed, which was the structure of digital, of being able to move things around, all of the efficiencies, right? Like, you know, I want this hand a little bit smaller. I want this a little bit bigger. Right? That's super easy. We all know the benefits of digital. So about halfway through, I was like, fuck, this really sucks, man. This is really turning into a real pain in the ass, and it's becoming extremely unenjoyable. I'm just going to draw on the page, right? So I connected all the stuff. I looked at my layout, and I just drew on the page. Right? And I was like, holy shit, I need this card to be a little bit smaller. What do I do, right? And I'm like, fuck, I guess I got to erase it, right? I'm like, oh, well, if I erase it, got to do it again. This is really fucking inefficient, right?
Right.
But there was something enjoyable about walking the tightrope with no net, right? So by the time I finished the last 2, again, I just drew right on the page. It was so enjoyable to not know what was going to happen, to feel like I had so little like control over what the results was going to be. That was so weird and liberating. So then when I started doing it for interior pages, I realized that the way I've worked for a long time digitally is that, you know, most of the time our initial instincts are pretty correct, right? Like, you know, when we do layouts, we've all gone through this. We do a small layout, we blow it up, and we're like, oh man, it's lost so much of the energy, right? So then when I worked digitally, I felt like there was no energy lost, because I could literally use that thumbnail and build on top of that, right? And if I need it a little bit smaller, it's easy enough to shrink, right? So I was used to going with what my first initial instinct was. But when I started drawing pages, when a character needed to be a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and I would have this internal struggle, I'm like, oh, do I erase this or do I not erase it? Because it's a good drawing, but I just need him a little bit over there for the composition. And ultimately, I would erase it. And, you know, I came to this mind frame where, like, well, if I've already erased it, is there another way to do this panel, right? So then I would allow myself to explore a new way to draw the panel. And then that way, if I didn't like it, I'll just erase it and draw it right back how I did it. And ultimately, what would always end up happening is that new version was a lot better. There was something livelier about it, because at that point, I've already iterated on the idea. I've already, you know, I've went from the thing that I thought I wanted to do, and now I was getting to look at it from a different perspective. So I found that penciling right on the page without lightboxing a thing allowed me not the ability, it was allowing me to make mistakes and rectify that, right? And, you know, so one of the things that we say all the time at the company, and Jeff has said this a lot, not to bring it back to Ghost Machine, but I will. But I love this quote, which is that, in our company, the cement is always wet, right? Because the moment that the cement dries, it means that you're fixed, you're standing in place, you're not going anywhere, right? So what I like about working that way is that if I work digitally, my mind is it's too efficient in that it's already done. The cement is dry. You're going to go with this. But if I've erased it, I've effectively burned the bridge behind me. So I now have to figure out a new way, right? So therefore, the cement is always wet. If I'm working traditionally, as long as there's an eraser there, and as long as the thing is erased and I have no way to get that back, I can figure out a new way, a new thing.
Sure.
Right. And I think that has made the joys of it so much fun, man. Like, even to the point where dude, I used to use like the technical pads and little clicker pads, like the 0.5, because it's efficient. I don't want to erase. I don't want to sharpen. That's if you add up all that sharpening time, that's seconds, that's minutes, that's hours a week, right? And I'm like, I can't be doing that. But I fucking swung the other way. Now I'm buying like normal pencils that you sharpen,
Yeah.
and not the clicker kinds, and like the kinds that get into a little nub and then you get that little extender, right? So I got really into that. Like, I bought like this Blackwing sharpener. I'm like, why is this sharpener $30? That's insane. Why isn't it $2?
Right.
Then when I bought it, then I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, and then I got into like fountain pens, right? And it's just like, oh my God, this is so much fun, right? It's just everything is geared towards fooling my brain that this is still a lot of fun. And you know what? It still is. Like, there's no need to fool it anymore, because it's like, oh shit, this is fun, man.
Sure.
What we do is fun. And I think as long as you figure out how to do it that way, it makes the job easier, right?
Yeah.
It is a job, but if you're sitting there, you might as well enjoy it, right?
Yeah. You're making Sean's all your entire rhetoric is just making Sean so happy, because he's such a it's not that he's against digital, which is not what he broadcasts at all. People flip it on him sometimes, and he makes it. They phrase it in such a way that he's pointed about, hey, he's all about traditional, which is not where he's coming from. What he's saying, and I think it aligns to where you're coming from, Francis, which is like, he just finds a lot of joy in doing things traditionally, right? Like, and to your point earlier, which is like, find a way to find joy in the thing that you're doing, knowing full well at the end of the day, it's still a job to do, right? So, Sean and Mateo find joy in doing things traditionally. I do things digitally, but there's joy in that as well. Initially it was
don't get me wrong, man.
Initially it was for efficiencies,
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed working digital.
Yeah.
It just got to the point where it got boring, because the same thing I'm saying now, I said this about digital like 5 years ago.
Right.
And I think a lot of the mistakes that people try to do is, when you're working digital, is replicate what you do traditionally.
Yes.
Right. If you're going to do that, why don't you just work traditionally?
Right.
That's the most efficient way to do it.
Right.
So like every now and then, I would embrace the digital aspect of the work, right? And I think, when you're talking about like artistic styles, right? I think when you work in a medium that you're not familiar with, you're forced to draw in the most natural way that you do your thing, right? And you find ways, right? So like, I found that when I was working digitally, there was a new style, a new avenue for my work that I didn't know was there, because I stopped trying to replicate what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. It was just, there was no, if I want ink wash, why don't I just ink wash it? Why do I need to try to replicate it digitally? Right. The whole point of it is that it's natural, and it's this thing that you're trying to, it's unwieldy, right? You know what I mean? That's the whole point of it. Right. But with digital, it's about control, but at the same time, there kind of is an ability to be spontaneous, because you know what? When you're drawing in a spontaneous way digitally, it's okay. If you make a mistake, it's fine.
Yeah.
Control Z.
Yeah.
Right. But if that one stroke, that one mistake that you did looks great, you just leave it.
Yeah.
right? You have the ability to travel through time and look at how shit could be and how shit could not be, right?
Yeah.
So it's super easy, right? And I think it's less so for me it's less so the fact that traditional is better than digital.
Yeah.
It's literally just I just got bored and I needed something different.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the dog size. And at some point I'm sure I'll come to this conclusion. And dude, it's the same thing, man. Everything becomes old, everything becomes boring.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately about, it's something hard. And right now, working traditionally is still difficult for me as I figure it out. I think the fun is the fact that it's challenging.
That's it. Yep.
Because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
I get it.
It's just.
All right, dude. We are at hour 23. Thank you so much for your time, Francis.
Thank you, Francis.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Dude, thank you so much, Dennis.
So you've been promoted. So now Eric is fired, and we have a new Filipino in the house. Woo!
Congratulations, pal.
Yeah.
You now have my curse. I can't make the analog to like a movie where you hand over the curse to somebody else who's willing to take it. But congratulations, dude. It's all yours.
All right. Oh, perfect timing. Good. Just came back.
All right.
Yeah, no, dude, seriously, thanks so much, guys. Like, seriously,
Yo, thank
you guys
you,
are
man.
doing amazing work.
Thank you, Francis.
Both your work on and off the podcast. You guys are amazing. You guys do cool shit, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, buddy. Good luck
Regardless
with
of what
it.
Eric says, you guys are doing great.
Yeah, you guys are doing fine. You guys are all so awesome. Congratulations and good luck with the publication, with the company.
Yeah,
Francis.
absolutely, man.
Looking
Yeah,
forward to see
curious
what you
to
guys
see
do next.
Your what comes out of it, your next venture, and the books that will come out of this new venture.
All right, pal.
Us too, man. Us too.
Get back
Thanks,
to your
guys.
family. We're gonna hit the stop button. Don't close your tab.
Pink Pulp Podcast.
Hey guys, my new sketchbook, Dumb Shark, is finally out.
That's great, Fratello. Congrats. Eric, what do you think?
Wow, Mateo. This book has really changed how I think about art. The style, the details, the inking techniques, not to mention the colors. Everything on this book is off the chart. You are so far ahead of any other artist, especially me. I know I always say I don't like your Mr. Freeze book, but that's actually a lie. I was just jealous of your incredible talent because I love everything you do, and sadly, I know deep in my heart that I'll never be at your extraordinary level. You truly are the best artist on planet Earth. This book is a game changer, man. I think everyone out there should go and order Mateo's new art book, Dumb Shark, before it sells out.
Gee willikers, Eric. That was an incredible endorsement. You really made me want to buy it. How can I get my hands on it?
You can find it on www.essentialsequential.com, or if you're in Europe, you can order it on www.pulps.fr.
Wow, Eric, I didn't know you were such a big fan of mine. Thank you. I really don't need to add anything else. You said it all.
What an asshole.
Wait, what?
Check this guy out. This motherfucker got some problems. I mean, you're not Burt Reynolds, dog. You're not. Wait, what? What was that? What was that? Oh, yeah. Is he really bowling with a suitcase?
I thought the ball was in the suitcase.
It does make me uncomfortable how much he's kissing the suitcase, though. It's a lot of kissing. Oh, come on, man. Come on. Who invited him?
I did.
What?